Uh, Good evening, all. Respected our resource persons for the evening, Mrs. Pragya Nopani ma'am. Uh, we'll wait for a few minutes, 1 minute maybe, because till now 1,000 participants plus have already joined. So in a minute we will start the session, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Let me just check whether my PowerPoint is getting presented or not.
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am. Fully visible.
All. Okay. Thank you.
So it's 4-1. You can start in a minute because it's 1,200 participants already joined.
Right. So should we start now?
Yes, ma'am, you can start. It's 1,500 plus. Thank you, ma'am.
Oh. So a very good evening to all present over here. It's wonderful to meet people from Pataliputra Sahodaya School Complex once again. And I wish that you all will be writing from time to time your comments in the chat box, because I would like it to be an interactive webinar. Uh, so please keep on writing in the chat box. I'll read from there. So let me present the PowerPoint, and I hope it is visible to all. Yeah. So today's topic is case-based learning. Now, you know that case-based learning has been introduced by CBSE, but even without CBSE introducing it, it makes for a wonderful case itself for being introduced as a wonderful medium for providing critical thinking, analysis, evaluation, decision making. So let us learn more about it today. So as I proceed, what is the guiding principle behind case study? So you must have heard that saying that give someone a fish and they'll eat that day, but teach someone how to catch a fish and they will never go hungry. I don't know what this obstruction is there. Is my screen clearly visible to you, or there is some obstruction? Can
It's clear, ma'am. It's very clear.
Okay, okay. So that is the principle that if we give ready-made answers to our children, they will surely mug it up, and then they will give us wonderful answers in the exam and they will get beautiful marks. But when they go out in real life, whether they will be able to think for themselves in a new situation, whether they will understand how to apply what they had learned, whether they will understand whether what they had learned is applicable in this situation or not, and if it is applied, what will be the consequences. So that kind of analysis and evaluation, and then finding and creating new solutions, that can come only when we give situations in front of children in which they can practice doing this, practice analyzing, practice evaluating, practice creating solutions. And even before that, can we give them situations in which some people have done it? And in these situations, through case study, we bring in front of them the situations where how other people have solved problems. And from that solution of problem by people, maybe in law, maybe in medical, maybe in science field, maybe in business. So from all these walks of life, we bring in front of children different kinds of problems, how they arose and how people analyzed and found solutions for them. So this is what we present when we are presenting cases to our children to study. So, uh, so what exactly is a case study? Can you write in the chat box, what do you think is a case study? Quickly write a sentence in the chat box telling me what is your idea of a case study. Quick one sentence in the chat box. What is your idea of a case study? By now, I think everybody has done a few case studies in the classroom. So somebody is saying application, life situation, analysis about anything, clues to get answer, application. No, I'm afraid none of these are case studies. This is what we are doing with the case studies. We are applying, we are analyzing, we are creating a situation. But what exactly is a case study? So case study is a scenario. Case study is a scenario. And by presenting that scenario, what are we doing? We are presenting a context in which children can analyze and respond. And in this process of analyzing and responding, we guide them through some specific questions. So these are the situations which provide a perfect platform for us to guide our children in analyzing and responding to the situation. So children also learn to identify problems and issues. They apply concepts and principles and they make decisions. So this is how a scenario leads us to our goal. And our goal is that children learn to analyze, assess, and make right decisions and then evaluate their decisions. So that is the whole purpose of a case study. So what exactly a case study can be? What kind of scenarios these can be? This can be a real life incident. It can be a dialogue. It could be a story. It could be a report. It could be a cartoon, or it could be even a picture, right? So now let us take a one by one how we can bring these scenarios to help us in our goal of critical thinking. So real life incident. Now look at this real life incident. This is a tortoise named Clarence. Now he was in US. He was lent by Los Angeles Zoo to exotic animal training and management program at Moore Park College in Moore Park, California. So when he went to his new home, Clarence wrecked. He damaged the whole home. He just pushed one of the fence poles right over and walked out of his cage. And how this happened? How could it be that his cage was not right to hold him? And that was because there was a confusion with the units. It seems that Los Angeles Zoo has won the exotic animal program, that Clarence weighs about 250. Now, what is the meaning of 250? The zoo meant 250 pounds, but the animal training program people thought that, yeah, they thought it was 250 pounds, but actually his weight was 250 kilogram. And 250 kilogram means just the double in pounds. It is 552 pounds, whereas they thought it was only 250 pounds. So the cage was not strong enough to hold it. So if you look at this case study, we can give it to children and ask them to analyze what was the reason, and then what is the inference that we get from there, that how important the units are, because the correct communication procedure demands that each party understands what is being communicated, and right unit is a very big part of the right communication. So how this funny incident could be taken up for an understanding and analysis of the situation and understanding the importance of units. Then another good real life story is from the Indian newspapers, and that is how in Jharkhand a baby elephant fell into the well, and then the forest officials used Archimedes' principle to rescue it. Now, all of us are teaching Archimedes' principle, I think in class 9. So, if this animal fell into the well, the baby elephant was too heavy and too low down to walk out of it. So they poured water in the well. You see here on the right hand side top picture, they are putting water in the well. And you know, elephant's body is the same density as water. So gradually it floated up, and when it floated high enough up, it could walk out of the well, or it could be pulled out of the well. So that is how we can use the real life situations. We can give them to students to study, analyze, and then apply whatever principle they have read to find the solution. How beautifully the officials found the solution based on Archimedes' principle. So it is a twin process. You show the picture to the students and ask them, how do you think this elephant can be rescued? Let it be an open-ended question. And then the children will give you many solutions. Take up each solution one by one and discuss the feasibility of it, and ultimately arrive at the correct solution, and that is with the help of Archimedes' principle. That is one thing. The second thing is discuss the solution that the people there itself thought about. So you are, when you read this report, when you ask them that why did they fill the well with water, how it would have helped the animal, let them answer how it would have helped, because answer is not so obvious, that just by filling the well with water, how does it help the animal? The answer is not very obvious. So allow them to think about it and then come out with the answer. So this is how a real life scenario is helping us to make children think critically. Then another one could be a dialogue. Now look at this dialogue. There is this happy birthday cake on which a candle is burning, and this person is asking, what do you think about the burning of candle, whether it is exothermic or endothermic reaction? So one person says it's a mixture of an endothermic and an exothermic reaction. This girl in pink says the candle burns, so it must be an exothermic chemical reaction. Then another person here says you need heat to light the candle, so it must be endothermic. Now, this girl says the flame stays at the same temperature, so it can't be exothermic or endothermic. So now what do you think? So give this picture, give this scenario, give this dialogue in the classroom, and ask the children, what do you think, who's right? So, how this process of presenting a dialogue in the class, better than asking the children straight away whether it is exothermic or endothermic reaction? Can you write in the chat box? You see, we have two options in the classroom. One is we can directly ask the children, what do you think? Candle is an exothermic reaction or endothermic reaction? The other option is not to ask directly, but to show them this dialogue that this group is having. How is this dialogue discussion in the class better than asking a direct question? So I want you to write in the chat box, what is the advantage of showing this discussion? Now, I don't want you to tell me whether the reaction is endothermic or exothermic. And that is the whole point that I'm driving at. See, correct answer or the right information is not so important as the ability to make the children think. So, and that is exactly why I'm asking you to tell me why showing this dialogue to the student is more effective than just getting the answer from them. Yeah, so write in the chat box. So curiosity develops. No, I'm afraid that's not the ultimate aim. They will have to weigh their answers. Wonderful, wonderful. Critical thinking, right? Wonderful. You see, they will analyze everybody's answer and then they will weigh it as you've written in the chat box. They will evaluate कि ये सही है या नहीं है. अगर सही नहीं है तो क्यों नहीं है, अगर सही है तो भी क्यों है. So it is this thinking about their own thinking which is called critical thinking. And this thinking about one's own thinking, that whether what I'm thinking is right or not, to examine it, to evaluate it, and to find evidence for it, that is what is critical thinking. And that is what this dialogue gives the chance in the classroom. And another beautiful thing about this kind of case study is, children don't feel threatened because you're not asking them directly, is it exothermic or endothermic? So they don't feel threatened that my answer may be right or wrong. It is as though they are examining somebody else's answer. So when you examine somebody else's answer, you're not so threatened yourself. So that is a very non-judgmental way of drawing out the children in the classroom to think and express their opinion. So that is how this kind of case study, I think, is preferable over direct answers. Then look at another dialogue. Now here it's a dialogue between Aristotle and Galileo. So Aristotle is saying forces keep things moving. Galileo is saying you're wrong. Forces make things stop or change their direction. Inertia keeps things moving. So now again they are having a debate. So who is right? Whether Galileo is right or whether Aristotle is right. Again, it's not important that the child should give the correct answer. What is important is that they should have a deeper look at what each one of is saying and then make their opinion, and then they should be able to justify their opinion, that why they think Aristotle is right or why they think Galileo is right. So it is this examining something very critically, that is what we want to develop in our children, because the information that we are giving them today is going to become outdated after some time. So we want our children to be able to think in new situations and to be able to weigh the pros and cons. And that is what our purpose is in presenting these dialogues as a case study. Moving on further, a cartoon. In fact, what I showed you previously here, this is also called a concept cartoon. And this is also a kind of cartoon, but then another cartoon is this one. So now look at this cartoon. I'm going to ask you in a minute that with which topic you will like to put this up as a case study. You see this very carefully and then write in the chat box that which topic under which topic you would like to take it up, with which portion of your science course you would like to discuss this. So here what is being shown is a rhinoceros on whose nose, instead of एक वो जो सींग है उसकी जगह पे एक रोज है. And these people are, and this is a recombinant DNA lab. right? So they have made a new kind of rhinoceros on which instead of the seeing, it has a flower, rose flower, and they're calling it, it's a rhinoceros. It's a rhinoceros. तो अब बात ये है कि ये इतना हंसी वाला कार्टून है, आप इसको अपने किस टॉपिक के साथ बच्चों को सोचने के लिए दे सकते हो? Genetic engineering. So are you teaching genetic engineering in ninth? Tell me. If yes, very fine. Okay. So what question can you ask in this with this cartoon so that children are compelled to think? What will they analyze? What will they judge? And what will be the conclusion that you want them to make? So write that question in the chat box that you would ask children to help them analyze. You have to tell them what to analyze, right? So what will you ask them so that they start analyzing this cartoon? Write one question in the chat box that you will ask them, which will compel them to analyze this cartoon. I want a question. I want a question in the chat box, not your opinions. Please don't write excellent session. I don't want your feedback right now. I want you to think and tell me what question will you ask so that children learn to analyze. Okay. Yes, you can ask them what is the variation here and why at all this name rhinoceros? How is it appropriate? Yes, you've written what this rhinoceros would be called. Exactly. Because the name itself tells us that it's a hybrid. Right. Wonderful. How wonderful. Uh, okay, somebody's written how Rose will survive. I like that question very much. Wonderful. Now this is another picture here, another cartoon here. So what do you think you can use this cartoon for? What kind of analysis would you be able to generate in the class using this particular picture? Now we are not on the DNA picture. Now there's a new picture. So please yourself analyze this picture and tell me what question you will ask on this picture. Okay, push, I understand. You're right. You will use it in these topics. Third law of Newton, pressure, and sitting behavior, pressure. All right. But what will be your question that makes the students analyze? Because your purpose is not to connect with it with the topic only. Your purpose is to make them analyze. So what will you ask the children? What question can you ask the children showing this picture so that the thinking starts, so that the critical thinking starts? How will the two? What is pushing? Why do you think the right? What is the right posture? What are okay? So think about it. I thought that this would be a good situation to talk about Newton's third law, but then you're suggesting many more situations. So all the best to you. You can think of questions which will make them analyze and reach even those points which you are raising up here. Okay. Then how a picture is a case study. Now look at this picture. This is a glass frog. Now I don't mean that this frog is made of glass. It's a real frog which is called glass frog because its bottom is transparent and you can see through it. You can see this mother frog and the egg inside its stomach. So, uh, how you can use this picture to start some analysis, to start some thinking, some evaluation. Maybe if I was in this place, I would say, what if our own bodies were transparent like this? What will be the consequences, right? So that may make them analyze our present system, and then what if we become transparent? Then what will be the pros and cons? Okay, so what is genus? Now, see, I would encourage you to ask not just information-based questions. It is good to start with an information-based question, as you are saying, because it connects with the child's previous knowledge or common knowledge. But then we have to go beyond just the recall and fact. We have to take them to higher order thinking. And that is the whole purpose of case study. It is not just recall or understanding or application, but it is the higher order thinking which is the purpose. So think about how you would use this picture to make them analyze and evaluate and create. Those three are the target thinking skills that we are looking at through case studies. You can also look at the way their the limbs are, the hands and the feet. Look at the way they end in a particular structure. So the children could analyze why this kind of a particular structure is there at the end, and what is the necessity for the frog to be transparent. What is the kind of environment in which it must be living so that it needs the transparency? What is the reason that it has evolved to have a transparent body, right? So these are the kind of things which will make children think. Now another picture is this one. You look at the body of this child. You look at the big tumor that this child has at the back, and you look at this tumor that this child has for his two hips or the bottom. And these are very tragic pictures of the Chernobyl tragedy, the nuclear power plant that went kaput in Ukraine, and the children suffered terribly. There is a beautiful, very heart-touching movie by BBC which is called The Chernobyl Heart, because all these children were born with holes in their heart. And then there is another documentary called The Forgotten Children of Ukraine. And you see all these children are born with such deformities and their lives are just pathetic and tragic. So you can show these pictures and ask the children that start a debate whether we should go for the nuclear power or we should not go. But then should we make them look only at the negative side where look the tragedy of these children, their lives is to be highlighted? Or we can also say that everything has two aspects. Is the way we use things which will lead to a disaster or a boon for humanity. So again, if we have to develop attitudes, it's not always the cognitive development that we want. It is also the affective domain, the attitudes, the values, or what is the right kind of perspective with which any decision should be taken. We have this the genetically made identical that lamb was there, right? Genetically engineered babies. So whether that is ethical or not ethical. So these kind of cases allow us to present a situation in front of the children where again they can analyze and think of pros and cons of a particular decision, evaluate the decisions, think of the implications, and then implications of implications, which is very important because बच्चे तो impulsive होते हैं. Any decision they just take without thinking twice about it. But a part of growing up is to be able to weigh the pros and cons of our decisions and implications thereof. So this is how these kind of case study will help us in developing those right attitudes also. Then a story. Okay, now this is a story by Frederick Brown, and I will read out this story for you. It's an amazing story. And remember, at the end of the story, I'm going to ask you what is the meaning of the last line and what is the story about. Okay, right. So Miss Massey sniffed. Why is everyone worrying so? They are not doing anything to us, are they? In the cities elsewhere, there was a blind panic, but not in Miss Massey's garden. She looked up calmly at the monstrous, mile high figures of the invaders. A week ago, they had landed in a spaceship 100 miles long that had settled down gently in the Arizona desert. Almost 1,000 of them had come out of that spaceship and were now walking around. But as Miss Massey pointed out, they hadn't hurt anybody or anything. They weren't quite substantial enough to affect people. When one stepped on you or stepped on a house you were in, there was sudden darkness, and until he moved his foot and walked on, you couldn't see. That was all. There was no other damage. They had paid no attention to human beings, and all attempts to communicate with them had failed, as had all attacks on them by the army and the air force. Shells fired at them exploded right inside them and did not hurt them. Not even the hydrogen bomb dropped on one of them while he was crossing a desert area had bothered him in the slightest. They had paid no attention to us at all. And that, said Miss Massey to her sister, who was also Miss Massey, since neither of them were married, said, and that is the proof that they don't mean to harm us any, isn't it? Miss Massey's sister said, I hope so, Amanda, but look what they're doing now. It was a clear day, or had been one. The sky had been bright blue, and almost humanoid heads and shoulders of the giants, a mile up there, had been quite clearly visible. But now it was getting misty. Miss Macy saw, as she followed his sister's gaze upward, each of the two big figures in sight had a tank like object in his hands, and from these objects, clouds of vaporous matter were emerging, settling slowly towards Earth. Miss Massey sniffed again. Making clouds? Maybe that's how they have fun. Clouds can't hurt us. Why do we people worry so? She went back to her work. Her sister asked, is that a liquid fertilizer you're spraying, Amanda? Miss Massey said, no, it's insecticide. So look at the last two lines. The sister is saying, is that a liquid fertilizer you're spraying, Amanda? Miss Massey said, no, it's insecticide. Now the story ends. It's a short story. Now tell me, what sense do you make out of this story? And look at the name of the story, the pattern, just the pattern. Now you have to analyze the story and look at it in relation to the title of the story, pattern. So what sense does the story make to you? What do you think those aliens were doing? And whatever they were doing, does it remind you of some of our own actions that we do? Yeah, so please write in the chat box. What do you think? Somebody is saying we are going to get a return of bad work that we do. The aliens might be spraying insecticides. Wonderful, amazing. That is the pattern. Just the way we spray insecticides on the insects, the aliens might be spraying something on the humans which smells like an insecticide and which might kill the humans. It might be an insecticide for the humans. So whatever we were doing to the insects, somebody else is doing to us. Does it make us think twice about what we do? Do you think this story would give a platform to our children to think about? The way they blindly spray this spray on mosquitoes or insects without bothering, without caring a hoot. If somebody was doing the same thing to us, how would it feel? And so innocently, the two sisters are thinking that those foreigners are, those aliens are good, they are not harmful to us. And imagine that is the kind of trust the insects might be placing on humans, that humans are good to us, they will not do anything harmful to us. And in that innocence and in that trust, they're getting killed by the humans. So, this is how we are bringing situations in front of them and then allowing them to take up thinking from here onwards. Then another one could be a report. Now, this is a report about an iron or uncrushable bug. Now, if you read the report, uh, this beetle, even if a Land Rover goes over it, it is not crushed. It can take a force up to 149 newtons. That is approximately 39,000 times its own body weight. And so now give it to the children. They will analyze that what is the structure of this body so that it is able to withstand 39,000 times its body weight. And this is what scientists are doing. They're studying the nature, they're studying every corner of nature, every species, every insect, and analyzing their behavior, analyzing their body structure, analyzing the facilities that have been given to them by nature, and then learning the secrets of nature and then making devices based on that. You all know how stealth bombers have been made, how looking at the way a bird can hover at the same place, they have made aircrafts which can hover at the same place without going forward, backward. So this is called biomimicry. It's an amazing new field that has come up in last a few years. So again, all this comes from looking at things keenly, thinking about them, analyzing and evaluating, and then create something new based on those very principles. So, are we to remain confined to the facts in our book, or should we give wonderful new situations to our children which are so interesting, so different? And you might have heard children, saying that क्लास छोटी क्लासेस तक तो साइंस बड़ी मजेदार लगती थी और उसके बाद वो इतनी बोरिंग लगती है. क्यों बोरिंग लगती है? बिकॉज वी आर मेकिंग देम just ratify the facts which are given in the book and we are examining them. We are not allowing them to think beyond those situations which are in the book. So they are prisoners of the book. Let us unprison them. So that is the chance that case study is providing. Now, how a painting can provide a case study. Look at this famous painting by Van Gogh. Now, write in the chat box how you think that a painting could be, a painting could provide case study or a basis for scientific thought. I mean, you can analyze a piece of art and rejoice at the different aspects. That's one aspect, definitely. But what scientific basis a painting could provide to study? Could you write in the chat box that what do you think could be studied scientifically about these flowers? Yeah. So somebody is writing different kinds of flowers. Okay. Life is an art. No, moods. No, no, no. No, I'm not meaning it as an artistic appreciation. I want you to tell me what scientific thought can this painting generate? Different kinds of objects, as flower texture, sunlight, bloom. Well, let me come to the thing. If you look at the flowers, what kind of flowers are depicted in this? Let us let us just start with the recall type of question, identification, simple identification. What do you think is the flower shown here? Name the flower that is shown in this picture. It is sunflower. I think maybe some of you recognize it is sunflower. Now, more than that, what is important is it is showing different species of sunflowers. Different species of sunflowers. And this picture hides clues for genetic basis of a mutation. That is the amazing part of this Van Gogh's painting, because it has two types of sunflowers, and uh, it shows mutation caused by the presence of a single dominant gene, because at that time one particular type of sunflowers were in vogue, but the painting shows another kind. And so how did that kind arise? And that must have been because of mutation. And this mutation was deliberately introduced by hybridization. And that is how they produce new kind of sunflowers. And that is how this picture gives us an opportunity for a case study for mutation, which is introduced deliberately by hybridization. Okay. Now I come to the next part, and that is how to develop a case-based lesson plan. So what is the recipe? Well, you decide on a topic first, then you research and identify a scenario, and then you list the principles and concepts that can be taught through that scenario. Then you write the case document and include infographics. Because why we have to write the case document? Because the literature or the scenario that you get, it may be too long, and you may have to make it short or more adaptable to the age and grade in which we are teaching it. And then we have to frame the questions, and for that we can use Bloom's taxonomy. So this is the recipe for preparing a case study, and I will show you how I applied this particular recipe to make a case study on sound. Now, once we identify the scenario, what will we do? Then we will, first we will identify a topic, right? And then we will research for a scenario. So when we are researching for a scenario, how do we identify that, yes, this is the scenario that we want? So for that, we have to understand that situation must tell us a story, and it should be interesting, and it should be unusual. It should be relevant to the learner. It should be related to the instructional outcomes. ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने बस कहानी सुना दी और इंटरेस्ट क्रिएट कर दिया, तब तो we have not reached anywhere. We have to remember कि हमारा गोल क्या है, where we have to take the students. Our goal is that they should be able to analyze a new situation, think about various factors playing in that situation, and then evaluate something and arrive at the final solution. It must have a pedagogical utility, will provoke thinking and discussion, because without that thinking and discussion, we will not achieve our instructional outcome. It forces decision making on the children, and it must be short, and it should be generalizable to situations which learners normally face in their life. And then we have to look at the Bloom's taxonomy, that all these levels should come up in our question, because this is the process of Bloom's taxonomy, that first children learn about facts, they are able to remember, understand, apply, and after having learned this, then you give them a new situation in which they analyze, evaluate, and create. So when we are using the case study and using that situation, we are framing our questions. We must make sure that our questions pertain to each of the steps in this process of Bloom's taxonomy. Now, how to do that? Now, this is what I am showing you in this sample document that I made on sound. So first thing I did was decide that, yes, I want to make a case study on sound. Then what did I do? I researched on the internet. So on the internet, when I researched, I got this kind of some reading. Ogrephase spiders catch insects out of the air using sound instead of sight. तो ये एक केस स्टडी मुझे दिखी कहीं पर. Now, are you able to see what I'm trying to show you on the new site, or you're seeing only my PowerPoint presentation? Are you able to see this site of Science News that I am showing? सर, आप मुझे बता सकते हैं आपको ये साइंस न्यूज की साइट दिख रही है या मेरा पावरपॉइंट दिख रहा है? Okay, it is visible. All right. So this is the Ogre-phase spider, and scientists realize that they probably catch their prey by using sound and not by sight. So once I read this topic, I was very intrigued. It was very interesting for me to read this topic, but then it didn't it didn't give me complete information. So what I did was I searched more. Then again I got another reading on Ogre-phase spiders which have great hearing without ears. अब उस पे मैंने जब केस स्टडी बनानी चाहिए तो मुझे कोई इन्फोग्राफिक्स नहीं मिले. So I further researched and I came to another site where there was an experiment and lot of infographics were given, the bar charts were given, some data was given. So that's how I did my research. And then finally I looked at the concepts that are there in class 9th, which I can use over here. So what were the concepts? Vibrations and sound I could bring in. I could bring in audible range for humans. Ultrasonic and infrasonic sounds were being taught in class 9th. I could bring that. Habitat I could bring in. Prey and hunters could be brought. Frequencies available in the habitat could be brought. Science and technology could be brought in. Controlled variables can children recognize, that could be brought in. Experimental designing could be brought in. Reading bar charts could be brought in. Interpreting data could be brought in. Now look at all these concepts and competencies and write in the chat box that up till which serial number it is concepts, and then which serial numbers are concepts and which serial numbers are competencies. Please write in the chat box. I want you to write in the chat box, out of all these points that I have given here, which ones are concepts and which ones are competencies. Sir, is my PowerPoint visible or not? So you've written 11. 1 to 6 is what? Till 6, what is it? What do you mean 1 to 6 or 11? What does it mean? I want you to tell me which ones are concepts and which ones are competencies here. Okay, 1 to 6 are concepts, and then even 7th, practice of science and technology will become competency, and then recognizing control variables, designing the experiment, reading the bar chart, interpreting the data, all these are competencies. So using case-based study, I'm trying to give a training in concept application as well as nurturing some of the competencies that are required. Okay. Now, after deciding that, I wrote this paragraph myself from whatever knowledge I got. So let me read it. The ghoulishly named Ogre-phase spider can hear with its legs and use that ability to catch insects flying behind it. They hunt only at night using a special kind of web, an A-shaped frame made from non-sticky silk that supports a fuzzy rectangle that they hold with their front forelegs and use to trap prey. They do this in two ways. Now listen very carefully because I'll be asking you some questions based on the frequency. So they do this in two ways. In a maneuver called a forward strike, they pounce down on prey moving beneath them on the ground. This is enabled by their large eyes the biggest of any spider. These eyes give them 2000 times the night vision that we have. But the spiders can also perform a move called backward strike, in which they reach their legs behind them to throw the silky rectangular net and catch insects flying through the air behind them. What the researchers wanted to understand was how the spiders could tell what was moving behind them when they have no ears. Now, in a 2016 study, the researchers blindfolded the spiders and sent them out to hunt. This prevented the spiders from making their forward strikes, but they were still able to catch prey using the backward strike. The researchers thought that the spiders were hearing their prey without the sensors, with the sensors on the tips of their legs. All spiders have these sensors, but scientists had previously thought that they were only able to detect vibrations through surfaces and not sounds in the air. To test how well the ogre-faced spiders could actually hear, the researchers conducted a two-part experiment. First, they inserted electrodes into removed spider legs, which can react to sounds up to an hour after being severed, and into the brains of intact spiders. They put the spiders and the legs into a vibration proof booth and played sounds from 2 meters away. The spiders and the legs responded to sounds from 100 hertz to 10,000 hertz. From 100 hertz to 10,000 hertz. Okay? This is the case study paragraph that I gave to the children. Now, what were the questions that I asked? Before asking the question, let me show you this video that will make you understand. अब देखो ये स्पाइडर क्या कर रही है. ये स्पाइडर is spinning her net, and then see how she catches her prey through vision in front. अब आप देखिए ये इसका स्पाइडर का नेट बन गया है, इसको इसने धीरे धीरे बना लिया है, एंड नाउ शी विल, ये प्रे आ गया, ये देखो, ये looking at the prey, she has lunged forward and caught the prey. But this is because of her vision. The spider can see it. But now if I show you the next page, now you now tell me, is it forward or backward move? Now see, this is backward move. Forward move was on the same side where the net was, but this is backward move. So scientists are wondering कि backward move कैसे होता है, क्योंकि पीछे तो देख नहीं सकती स्पाइडर. तो वो सोचते थे कि किसी सरफेसेस से इनको वाइब्रेशंस पता लग जाते हैं लेग्स के सेंसर पे, और उससे ये कैच कर लेते हैं. But now they were suspecting that it is not through vibrations which they are sensing, but it is through the sounds which are coming in the air, and they have their ears in their legs. So this was the problem which they were trying to investigate. Now question, look at the question. This is the first level of Bloom's taxonomy where I wanted the recall question. So what question did I make? Compared to humans, ogre-faced spiders have what? Now look at these four options and you give me the correct answer. Do they have stronger night vision as well as wider audible range as compared to humans? Stronger night vision but narrower audible range? Weaker night vision but wider audible range? Weaker night vision as well as narrower audible range? अब आप बताइए कौन सा आंसर सही है. आपको पता है कि उनकी स्ट्रॉन्गर विजन थी, लेकिन फ्रीक्वेंसी रेंज क्या है उनकी? 100 हर्ट्ज टू 10,000 हर्ट्ज. What is our frequency range? Audible frequency range. Is it same or is it larger? What is our frequency range? No, it is not A. It is B, because our frequency range is 20 to 20,000 hertz. The ogre-faced spider has only 10 to 100 to 10,000. Right? So the children will read the passage carefully and from there they will recall this information. Now, understanding question. What was the understanding question? The question is, the issue was how could the spiders sense the insects behind them? By detecting their surface movements or by the sounds they made. How did the scientists solve this problem? अब अगर बच्चे ने पैराग्राफ ध्यान से पढ़ा है तो क्या वो समझ पा रहा है कि साइंटिस्ट ने इस प्रॉब्लम को कैसे सॉल्व किया? अगर वो ये आपको एक्सप्लेन कर सकता है तो उसकी अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज करेक्ट. नाउ अप्लाइंग. व्हाट इज द अप्लाइंग क्वेश्चन? विल एन ऑग्रे फेस स्पाइडर बी एबल टू हियर द फॉलोइंग साउंड्स? आंसर विद रीजन. अब क्या मैंने साउंड्स दिए उन्हें? The squeaks of bats used by them to locate their prey. Now, all of you know that bats are being taught in class 9. So, bats कौन सी sound सुन सकते हैं? उसकी क्या frequency range है? Now they will apply to this situation that does that frequency range fall within the audible range of Ogreface spiders, that is 100 to 10,000 hertz, right? फिर इंफ्रासोनिक साउंड्स ऑफ एलिफेंट्स एंड व्हेल्स, ये भी बुक में दिया हुआ है. तो नाउ दे हैव टू अप्लाई द नॉलेज ऑफ ऑडिबल रेंज ऑफ ऑग्रे फेस्ड स्पाइडर्स to the audible range of these animals and then decide on this, right? So this is again decision making. Analyzing. Up analyzing के लिए I had to add more infographics. Now what are these infographics? Now, next, the researchers studied the foraging behavior of the ogre-faced spiders at different sound frequencies. They played the differently pitched sounds at a 6-foot distance at night to 25 spiders in the wild and 51 spiders in the lab, and counted the number of times the spiders displayed backward strike. Their observations are shown in the figure below. अब आप ध्यान से देखिए, ये फील्ड ट्रायल्स हैं जहां पर जंगल में, और ये लैब ट्रायल्स हैं, और यहाँ पर साउंड की फ्रीक्वेंसी दी हुई है एक्स एक्सिस पे और वाई एक्सिस पे क्या दिया है? नंबर ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सेज, मतलब कितनी बार उन्होंने बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक मारे. अब इसको एनालाइज करेगा बच्चा और फिर क्या बताएगा? वो बताएगा आइडेंटिफाई 2 फ्रीक्वेंसीज फॉर विच the foraging response was high in the field as well as in the lab. अब आप ये मुझे चैट बॉक्स में बताइए. अभी हमारे पास 5 मिनट का समय है. So please write in the chat box, when you look at these 2 bar charts, which are the 2 frequencies for which the backward strike was high in the field as well as in the lab? आप एनालाइज करके बताइए और चैट बॉक्स में लिखिए. डोंट थैंक मी, प्लीज गिव मी द डेटा फर्स्ट. प्लीज गिव मी द डेटा फर्स्ट. सो व्हाट आर दोज फ्रीक्वेंसीज फॉर विच बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक इज मोर इन फील्ड एज वेल एज इन द लैब? 150. okay, one is 150 hertz. Wonderful, wonderful. 150 hertz is one. Which is the other? 400. Very nice. You can see here that 150 is high here as well as here. 400 here is high as well as here. 750 is not so high, right? Then at which frequencies the spiders remain still? Which are the 2 frequencies at which no backward strike was shown at all? अब ये देखकर बताइए इन दोनों ग्राफ से कि कौन 2200, yes, 2300 and 4400. These were the 2 frequencies. Last 2 में देखिए यहाँ पे कोई backward strike नहीं है. So now we have made the children analyze. We have made them look at absolutely no new information. They are analyzing that information and from there they are inferring, right? So this is critical thinking. अब क्या हुआ? अब हमें ये सोचना है कि उन 2 फ्रीक्वेंसीज पे कोई भी क्यों बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक नहीं था और जिन फ्रीक्वेंसीज पे बहुत हाई स्ट्राइक था वो क्यों था. अब रिसर्चर्स ने इन फ्रीक्वेंसीज को टैली किया. किससे? विंग बीट फ्रीक्वेंसीज ऑफ वेरियस इंसेक्ट्स एंड चर्पिंग साउंड्स ऑफ बर्ड्स in the same habitat in which spiders were found they were studied and tabulated by the researchers. अब आप देखिए क्या है विंग बीट या चर्पिंग फ्रीक्वेंसी. बटरफ्लाइज की 11 है, मॉथ्स की 150 है, फ्लाइज की 400 है, मॉस्किटोज की 750 है, बर्ड्स की अबव 1100 है. अब आप मुझे बताइए कि 150 और 400 पे उनका बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक क्यों इतना हाई था. वो तो देख ही नहीं पा रहे थे कि पीछे कौन है, लेकिन उस फ्रीक्वेंसीज पे बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक क्यों कर रहे थे वो. आप चैट बॉक्स में लिखिए. At 150 and 400 hertz, why were the spiders striking, giving backward strike? Because they identified them as the frequencies belonging to moths and mosquitoes. Yes, you are writing correctly in the chat box. Wonderful. तो उनको ये पता था कि इस फ्रीक्वेंसीज पे किस किस मॉथ और मॉस्किटो की उड़ने की खबर उनको मिल गई एंड देन दे डिड द बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक. पर 2300 और 44 पे एक भी बैकवर्ड स्ट्राइक क्यों नहीं थी. व्हाई वर दे एब्सोल्युटली साइलेंट. व्हाट डज दैट टेल अस. Why were the spiders absolutely silent at 2300 and 4400? Write in the chat box. What does it tell us? Yes, because the birds eat these ogre-faced spiders. So ogre-faced spiders were absolutely not moving so that they are not discovered by the birds who eat them. So you see how scientists have solved the problem, how they have designed the experiment, how they have analyzed. And now, as the last question at the creating level, what are we giving? While these results make it clear that the spiders can detect the sounds well, the researchers are next interested in testing their directional hearing, whether they can tell where the sounds are coming from, which particular direction behind them. Now, how will you design an experiment to do that? Or supposing the scientists find that the legs of an ogre-faced spider are indeed equipped to detect the direction of sound. Now, can you think of a technological application of that? So this is how, through a case study, we have encouraged the children to do wonderful critical thinking. So that's all. I have a lot more to say, but then I'm afraid that I won't be able to do that because actually it is a 2-hour session, which I cannot finish in 1 hour. But I hope that you have got the idea and you found the session useful as to what all goes into making a case study and how you can prepare that. So that is all from my side today. And these are my contact details. If anybody has any question or if you want to know something more, you can note down my details and contact me on this mobile number. So that's all. And if you have any questions or any feedback, please share. So if there are any questions, please write in the chat box. Thank you so much for your appreciation. I am very thankful for your appreciation, and I hope that you will create many more case studies and send me those interesting case studies that you were able to do. And if I find some case studies wonderful, then I will invite you to present your case study on a platform where there will be many teachers.
So such a nice move from your side, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll exit the session here now if there are no questions. I couldn't see any questions here. Yes, you can use it for junior classes as well. Thank you, Manika ji. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Would like to attend the next 1 hour, right? But unfortunately, this session is only for 1 hour. So only this much could be done. Thank you. Thank you so much. How can we create case study based on daily basis? Now you have so many things, pictures and dialogues, and then cartoons and newspaper items. So actually there are some sources which I could not cover in this, but BBC site, MIT site, New York Times, Hindustan Times, almost all newspapers have a science section where you keep getting new information, so you can create case studies out of that. And you can also create case studies out of situations in your classroom. Because when you ask children's opinions, when you give open ended questions, different children will give you different answers. Out of those answers, only you can create a case study and dialogue for the next class. Next year, the same very answers can give you a case study scenario. Okay. So I think that's all. There are no more questions. How can case-based study applied on co-curricular activities? Uh, yeah, so as I said, you may ask the children to prepare an artwork, and on like you saw the artwork by Van Gogh, or cartoons even are called artwork. So you can have an artwork which can provide a situation for critical thinking. So when I did a webinar on art integration, I think I provided such a scenario, art integration in science. We can do that again sometime. But I'll be doing art integration in social studies on 22nd. So maybe that could help you to see how we can provide thinking situations. So even though it is being, the topic is of social science, but still there also I will be showing that how art integration provides situations for critical thinking. Not only creative thinking will be there, of course, when the artwork is being prepared, but then it can be used for critical thinking also. So you might like to attend that session. I don't think there are any more. Yes, you can create case studies within classroom. Is any book on case study? No, I have not come across any case study book, but I guess you might find a lot of case studies now on the internet. Whether they are good or not, that you have to judge. But you might get the basic material and then you can form your own questions. Are there any more questions? No, I don't have any books. I'm afraid I don't have any books. Can we discuss a negative case of any child in front of the whole class? I, without, taking a name, and better it not be of the same year. In past, if there was some child, some negative behavior, maybe you can discuss it in a very positive way, in the sense that this is what was the behavior, what is your opinion, invite children's opinion. But when we preach to children, children don't like it. So rather than preaching to them that what should be done and what should not be done, invite their opinion, their critical thinking. Let it be an open question for bringing out their thinking. So let us not take names of those children who did the negative behavior, but just as a situation, you can put it in the classroom. But certainly not of negative behavior from the same class, because children will be able to place the who did that, and it will not be nice, because then the child who made the mistake will feel very embarrassed and he will feel that he's been judged. Or if you can do it without any kind of judgmental discussion, then it might turn out. But my advice would be that avoid the current class. How can develop creative skills? I think so. That's it. I think we'll call it a day. Thank you so much. I'll be leaving the webinar now. You can connect with me on the mobile phone. Thank you so much.